Yeah, I was reading a book recently, well, in the last 6 months. The Obstacle is the Way, Ryan Holiday. Great book. I put it probably in the top five of those I've either read or listened to. And he talks about some of those very things. I mean, and this book was obviously written before COVID in 2020, but just a plethora of examples of those who have succeeded during the Great Depression, and really tough times economically, where and you're talking about guys like, the Standard Oil Company, major, brands that continue to this day, whether under the same name or under the same guise. But these guys who took, and gals, there was female examples as well, but that they took these tough times when everybody else was doing exactly what you're saying, and they were kind of either playing it super safe, which sometimes isn't necessarily a bad decision. But if you are looking to maybe grow from a brand or a business that is at a certain level, and you're trying to up your game or go next level or explode, it takes a certain mindset to not succumb to the fears and to the really the vibe in the room, especially when the room is global. And being able to tune out the narrative, whichever narrative you happen to be being fed the most, and kind of push through. But there's a lot of examples throughout history of things like this on a global scale that people have really succeeded in business in. And that book is a great one. Ryan Holiday, Obstacle is the Way.
He also wrote Daily Stoic, which is,
yes.
I just looked it up. I knew that I recognized the name, but that's one I'll add to my list.
Yeah, if you're that's one of the things that I wanted to start actually getting into reading more of and studying more of, is that Stoic. He has a great Instagram that he runs, the Daily Stoic. Every day they put up a new quote, whether it's from Marcus Aurelius or Seneca or some of these great names throughout history, and just to read them in context in 2020, knowing how long ago they were written, and go, oh, like. Yeah. I guess like the basics are they transcend space and time.
And it's bizarre really too, because as someone who, going through college, and I think we've talked about this before too, me being a nerd at some degree, I took the philosophy classes. Like, that was some of my favorite stuff that I actually learned, and it continued beyond then. Same thing for me. One of my favorite philosophers is Albert Camus, a French philosopher, and a lot of his things are really relevant now too, because he wrote a lot of stuff about plague and how it was dealt with and what that meant. And obviously we've moved past the plague. There's a lot that can be drawn from that insight that we can take and actually apply, in a really strategic way today.
Yeah. And when you are able to do that, when you're able to decipher words that were written, obviously there's going to be some translation stuff, these, thys, and thous, which I still like to throw in every once in a while, like, how art thou? Thou as well. Thou as well. But I think when you read them and you put them into, the life that we are in 2020, or even decades before, you can really start to develop a set of characteristics that if you hone in on them and you stick to them, they just become part of the fabric of who you are as a human. And whether that's in business or whether that's just as an individual who wakes up every day and is thankful for the blessings that they do have and not coveting the things that they don't. And some people find that in religion, but I think if you again, religious quotes, sometimes if you put them into a context where it is just the words, you're like, oh yeah, I get, that makes sense. I should be a better person and not an asshole. It's